What if I told you that the DNA of Ashkenazi Jews holds secrets that could rewrite history? Scientists have uncovered shocking genetic clues linking them to ancient biblical tribes. Could they be descendants of the lost tribes of Israel? In this video, we'll explore the science, history, and biblical mysteries behind their origins. Stay tuned. This story will leave you questioning everything you thought you knew. The Ashkenazi Jews are one of the most fascinating groups in history. Their unique DNA traces back to ancient times, revealing surprising connections to the Middle East and even biblical stories. In this video, we'll uncover the science and history behind their origins and how it ties to shocking biblical revelations. Let's dive in. Imagine this. Hidden deep within our DNA are clues to our past, stories of where we came from, who our ancestors were, and how they lived. For the Ashkenazi Jews, these clues are especially fascinating. Scientists have spent decades studying their genetics, and what they've found is nothing short of astonishing. Let's start with the basics. The Ashkenazi Jews are a group of Jewish people who settled in Central and Eastern Europe during the Middle Ages. Today, they make up a significant portion of the global Jewish population. But their story begins much earlier, thousands of years ago in the ancient Middle East. So, what makes their genetics so unique? Well, Ashkenazi Jews share a set of distinct genetic markers that set them apart from other populations. These markers are like fingerprints, telling scientists about their ancestry and history. One of the most surprising discoveries is that Ashkenazi Jews are genetically more similar to each other than to other Jewish or non-Jewish groups. This suggests they descended from a small group of ancestors who lived around 1,000 years ago. But here's where it gets even more interesting. Genetic studies have shown that Ashkenazi Jews have roots in the Middle East, specifically in ancient Israel. This aligns with their historical and religious narratives, which trace their origins to the biblical patriarchs like Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. However, their DNA also reveals something unexpected, a mix of Middle Eastern and European ancestry. How did this happen? Let's rewind the clock. Around 2,000 years ago, the Jewish people were dispersed from their homeland in what is now Israel. This event, known as the Jewish Diaspora, forced them to migrate to different parts of the world. Some settled in Europe, where they formed the Ashkenazi community. Over time, they intermarried with local populations, leading to a blend of Middle Eastern and European genes. But the story doesn't end there. Geneticists have identified specific mutations in Ashkenazi DNA that are linked to certain diseases, like Tay-Sachs and Gaucher disease. While these mutations are rare in other populations, they're more common among Ashkenazi Jews. Why? It all comes down to something called the founder effect. The founder effect occurs when a small group of people becomes isolated from a larger population. Over generations, any genetic traits they carry, whether beneficial or harmful, become more common in their descendants. For Ashkenazi Jews, this means that the genetic mutations present in their small group of ancestors were passed down through the centuries. Now, you might be wondering, how did scientists uncover all of this? The answer lies in modern genetic technology. By analyzing DNA samples from thousands of Ashkenazi Jews, researchers have been able to map their genetic history with incredible precision. They've traced their ancestry back to a group of just 350 individuals who lived around 700 years ago. This small group, known as the founding population, is the reason why Ashkenazi Jews share so many genetic similarities. But it also raises another question. Who were these 350 people? Where did they come from? And how did they end up in Europe? To answer this, we need to look at history. During the Middle Ages, Jews faced persecution and expulsion from many European countries. This forced them to move frequently, often settling in small, isolated communities. These communities were tight-knit, with limited interaction with the outside world. As a result, marriages often took place within the group, further concentrating their genetic traits. But here's the twist. While Ashkenazi Jews have European ancestry, their Middle Eastern roots are still dominant. Studies show that about 50% of their DNA comes from the ancient Middle East. while the other 50% is a mix of European and other influences. This suggests that despite centuries of living in Europe, they managed to preserve their ancestral identity. So, what does all of this mean? For one, it confirms that the Ashkenazi Jews are a unique group with a rich and complex history. Their genetics tell a story of survival, adaptation, and resilience, but it also raises deeper questions about their origins. Could their DNA hold clues to ancient biblical stories? Could they be connected to the lost tribes of Israel? These are the questions we'll explore in the next part of our story. But for now, let's take a moment to appreciate the science behind these discoveries. Genetics is like a time machine, allowing us to peer into the past and uncover secrets that were once lost to history. And for the Ashkenazi Jews, those secrets are just beginning to come to light. As we move forward, keep this in mind. Every strand of DNA tells a story. And the story of the Ashkenazi Jews is one of the most intriguing of all. Stay tuned, because what we uncover next might just change the way you see history and yourself. The story of the Ashkenazi Jews is not just written in their DNA, it's etched into the very fabric of history. It's a tale of resilience, survival, and an unbreakable connection to their ancient homeland, Israel. Imagine being uprooted from your home, forced to leave behind everything you've ever known. This was the reality for the Jewish people over 2,000 years ago, when the Roman Empire destroyed the Second Temple in Jerusalem. This catastrophic event marked the beginning of the Jewish diaspora, scattering the Jewish people across the globe. Some found refuge in Europe, where they would eventually become the Ashkenazi Jews. But their journey was far from easy. Picture this: a small group of Jewish families, carrying nothing but their faith and a few belongings, traveling across harsh landscapes to find safety. They settled in places like Germany, Poland, and Russia, building communities that would thrive for centuries. Yet, even in these new lands, they faced unimaginable challenges: persecution, expulsion, and violence. Despite these hardships, the Ashkenazi Jews held on to their identity. Their faith became their anchor, their traditions a lifeline to the past. They built synagogues, studied ancient texts, and passed down stories of their ancestors in Israel. These stories weren't just tales. They were a reminder of who they were and where they came from. But here's what's truly remarkable. Even as they adapted to life in Europe, their connection to Israel never wavered. In their prayers, they turned toward Jerusalem. In their hearts, they carried the hope of one day returning to their ancestral homeland. This longing for Israel became a defining feature of their identity, a thread that tied them to their roots no matter how far they wandered. Over time, the Ashkenazi Jews began to blend with the local populations. Marriages between Jewish and non-Jewish individuals were rare, but over centuries, their DNA absorbed traces of European ancestry. Yet, their Middle Eastern roots remained strong. Genetic studies show that about half of their DNA can be traced back to the ancient Middle East, specifically to the land of Israel. This connection to Israel is more than just genetic. It's spiritual, emotional, and deeply personal. For the Ashkenazi Jews, Israel isn't just a place on a map. It's the land of their forefathers, the birthplace of their faith, and the heart of their identity. As we reflect on their journey, it's impossible not to feel a sense of awe. The Ashkenazi Jews endured centuries of hardship, yet they never lost sight of who they were. Their story is a testament to the power of faith, the strength of community, and the unbreakable bond between a people and their homeland. But the story doesn't end here. In the next part of our journey, we'll explore how this connection to Israel ties into ancient biblical prophecies, and how their DNA might hold the key to unlocking one of history's greatest mysteries. The story of the Ashkenazi Jews is not just a tale of survival, it's a story of destiny. A story that stretches back thousands of years, to a time when the world was young and the foundations of faith were being laid. It's a story that connects them to the very heart of the Bible, to the land of Israel, and to prophecies that have echoed through the ages. Let's begin with a question that has puzzled historians and theologians for centuries. Are the Ashkenazi Jews descendants of the lost tribes of Israel? To understand this, we need to go back to the ancient kingdom of Israel. According to the Bible, the Jewish people were divided into 12 tribes, each descended from one of the sons of Jacob. Around 720 BCE, the Assyrian Empire conquered the northern kingdom of Israel and exiled 10 of the tribes. These tribes vanished from history, becoming known as the lost tribes of Israel. For centuries, people have wondered, what happened to them? Did they disappear forever? Or did their descendants survive in some form? But how? Let's piece together the puzzle. After the Assyrian exile, some of the Israelites may have migrated north and west, eventually settling in Europe. Over time, they blended with local populations, but their genetic and cultural identity remained intact. This theory aligns with the Ashkenazi Jews' unique genetic profile, which shows a mix of Middle Eastern and European ancestry. But the connection goes deeper than genetics. The Ashkenazi Jews have always maintained a spiritual and emotional bond with Israel. In their prayers, they speak of returning to Zion. In their rituals, they remember the temple in Jerusalem. This connection isn't just cultural, it's written into their DNA. Now let's take a moment to imagine what this means. Picture a group of people, scattered across the world, carrying within them the genetic memory of their ancestors. Their DNA is a living testament to the promises made to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. It's a reminder that their story didn't begin in Europe. It began in the land of Israel, under the vast desert sky. But the biblical connections don't stop there. Some researchers believe that the Ashkenazi Jews' genetic markers may hold clues to ancient biblical prophecies. For example, the prophet Ezekiel spoke of a time when the scattered tribes of Israel would be reunited. Could the genetic discoveries about the Ashkenazi Jews be a fulfillment of this prophecy? Let's explore this idea further. The Bible is filled with promises of restoration. It speaks of a time when the Jewish people will return to their homeland, rebuild their nation, and reclaim their identity. For centuries, these promises seemed like distant dreams. But in the 20th century, something extraordinary happened: the establishment of the modern state of Israel. For the Ashkenazi Jews, this was more than just a political event, it was a spiritual awakening. After centuries of exile, they were finally able to return to the land of their ancestors. This return wasn't just physical. It was a reconnection with their biblical roots. And here's where it gets even more fascinating. Genetic studies have shown that Ashkenazi Jews share a common ancestry with other Jewish groups, such as the Sephardic and Mizrahi Jews. This suggests that despite their different histories, all Jewish communities are connected by a shared genetic and spiritual heritage. But the story doesn't end there. Some researchers believe that the Ashkenazi Jews' DNA may hold clues to the identity of the biblical patriarchs themselves. For example, studies have identified a genetic marker known as the Cohen modal haplotype, which is found in Jewish men who claim descent from Aaron, the brother of Moses. This marker is particularly common among Ashkenazi Jews, further linking them to their biblical roots. Now, let's pause and reflect on what this means. The Ashkenazi Jews are not just a historical or cultural group. They are a living link to the ancient world. Their DNA carries the echoes of biblical stories, the whispers of prophets, and the promises of God. But this connection isn't just about the past. It's about the future. The Bible speaks of a time when all nations will come together in peace, when the knowledge of God will fill the earth. For the Ashkenazi Jews, their genetic and spiritual connection to Israel is a reminder of this hope. As we conclude this part of our journey, let's remember this: the story of the Ashkenazi Jews is a story of faith, resilience, and destiny. It's a story that connects them to the land of Israel, to the Bible, and to the promises of God. But the journey isn't over. In the next part of our story, we'll explore the shocking revelations that tie the Ashkenazi Jews' DNA to ancient biblical prophecies, and how these discoveries might change the way we see history. Imagine this: A single strand of DNA, so small it's invisible to the naked eye, holds the power to rewrite history. It carries secrets that have been buried for thousands of years, secrets that could change the way we see the world. For the Ashkenazi Jews, this isn't just a theory. It's their reality. Let's dive into the most shocking revelations that have emerged from their genetic story, a story that ties them to the land of Israel, to the Bible, and to prophecies that have shaped the course of human history. First, let's revisit the question that has haunted scholars for centuries. Are the Ashkenazi Jews descendants of the lost tribes of Israel? The answer, as it turns out, might be hidden in their genes. Recent genetic studies have uncovered something extraordinary. The DNA of Ashkenazi Jews contains markers that trace back to the ancient Middle East, specifically to the region that was once the Kingdom of Israel. This discovery has sent shockwaves through the scientific community, reigniting debates about their origins and their connection to biblical history. But here's where it gets even more intriguing. Some researchers believe that these genetic markers could be evidence of the Ashkenazi Jews' descent from the lost tribes. According to this theory, after the Assyrian exile, some of the Israelites migrated to Europe, where they eventually became the Ashkenazi Jews. Over time, their DNA mixed with local populations, but their Middle Eastern roots remained intact. Now, let's take a moment to imagine what this means. Picture a group of people, scattered across the world, carrying within them the genetic memory of their ancestors. Their DNA is a living testament to the promises made to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. It's a reminder that their story didn't begin in Europe. It began in the land of Israel, under the vast desert sky. But the revelations don't stop there. Geneticists have also identified a unique set of mutations in Ashkenazi DNA that are linked to certain diseases, like Tay-Sachs and Gaucher disease. While these mutations are rare in other populations, they're more common among Ashkenazi Jews. Why? The answer lies in their history. During the Middle Ages, the Ashkenazi Jews lived in small, isolated communities. Marriages often took place within these communities, leading to a concentration of genetic traits. This phenomenon, known as the founder effect, explains why certain mutations became more common among Ashkenazi Jews. But it also raises a deeper question. What does this tell us about their connection to Israel? The answer lies in the biblical narrative. The Bible speaks of a covenant between God and the Jewish people, a promise that they would be His chosen people, and that their descendants would inherit the land of Israel. For the Ashkenazi Jews, their DNA is a living reminder of this covenant. It's a thread that ties them to their ancestors, to the land of Israel, and to the promises of God. But here's the most shocking revelation of all. Some researchers believe that the Ashkenazi Jews' DNA could hold clues to ancient biblical prophecies. For example, the prophet Ezekiel spoke of a time when the scattered tribes of Israel would be reunited. Could the genetic discoveries about the Ashkenazi Jews be a fulfillment of this prophecy? Let's explore this idea further. The Bible is filled with promises of restoration. It speaks of a time when the Jewish people will return to their homeland, rebuild their nation, and reclaim their identity. For centuries, these promises seemed like distant dreams. But in the 20th century, something extraordinary happened. The establishment of the modern state of Israel. For the Ashkenazi Jews, this was more than just a political event. It was a spiritual awakening. After centuries of exile, they were finally able to return to the land of their ancestors. This return wasn't just physical, it was a reconnection with their biblical roots. And here's where it gets even more fascinating. Genetic studies have shown that Ashkenazi Jews share a common ancestry with other Jewish groups, such as the Sephardic and Mizrahi Jews. This suggests that despite their different histories, all Jewish communities are connected by a shared genetic and spiritual heritage. But the story doesn't end there. Some researchers believe that the Ashkenazi Jews' DNA may hold clues to the identity of the biblical patriarchs themselves. For example, studies have identified a genetic marker known as the Cohen modal haplotype, which is found in Jewish men who claim descent from Aaron, the brother of Moses. This marker is particularly common among Ashkenazi Jews, further linking them to their biblical roots. Now, let's pause and reflect on what this means. The Ashkenazi Jews are not just a historical or cultural group, they are a living link to the ancient world. Their DNA carries the echoes of biblical stories, the whispers of prophets, and the promises of God. But this connection isn't just about the past, it's about the future. The Bible speaks of a time when all nations will come together in peace, when the knowledge of God will fill the earth. For the Ashkenazi Jews, their genetic and spiritual connection to Israel is a reminder of this hope. As we conclude this part of our journey, let's remember this. The story of the Ashkenazi Jews is a story of faith, resilience, and destiny. It's a story that connects them to the land of Israel, to the Bible, and to the promises of God. But the journey isn't over. In the next part of our story, we'll explore the shocking revelations that tie the Ashkenazi Jews' DNA to ancient biblical prophecies, and how these discoveries might change the way we see history. As we reach the end of this extraordinary journey, one thing is undeniable. The story of the Ashkenazi Jews is not just a tale of the past. It's a living, breathing narrative of hope, faith, and destiny. It's a story that binds them to the land of Israel, to the ancient words of the Bible, and to promises that have echoed through the ages. Let's take a moment to reflect on what we've uncovered together. We've explored how the DNA of the Ashkenazi Jews carries the whispers of their ancestors. Ancestors who walked the deserts of the Middle East, who built the kingdom of Israel, and who carried the faith of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Their genetic markers are like a map, tracing their journey back to the ancient land of Israel, linking them to the biblical patriarchs and the enigmatic lost tribes. We've also witnessed their incredible journey, a journey marked by exile, persecution, and unyielding resilience. Despite centuries of hardship, they held on to their faith, their traditions, and their unbreakable connection to Israel. Their story is a testament to the power of faith and the enduring bond between a people and their homeland. But perhaps the most astonishing revelation is this: their DNA may hold clues to ancient biblical prophecies. The promise of a return to Israel, the hope of a reunited people, and the vision of a world filled with peace. These are not just stories. They are promises that are being fulfilled even today. As we stand at the intersection of science, history, and faith, one question lingers. What does this mean for us? For the Ashkenazi Jews, it's a profound reminder of who they are and where they come from. It's a call to embrace their identity, to honor their ancestors, and to continue the journey that began thousands of years ago in the land of Israel. It's a reminder that their story is far from over. It's still being written, one generation at a time. For the rest of us, it's an invitation to learn, to explore, and to be inspired. The story of the Ashkenazi Jews is a reminder that history is not just about the past, it's about the future. It's about the promises we carry, the hopes we share, and the connections that bind us all together. So, what can you do with this knowledge? First, take a moment to reflect. Think about your own story, your own roots, and the promises that guide your life. What legacy do you want to leave for future generations? What connections do you have to the past, and how do they shape your present? Second, share this story. Talk about it with your friends, your family, and your community. The story of the Ashkenazi Jews is a story that deserves to be heard. A story of faith, resilience, and hope. It's a story that can inspire us all to look deeper into our own histories and to find the threads that connect us to something greater. Finally, stay curious. The world is full of mysteries waiting to be uncovered. Whether it's through science, history, or faith, there's always more to learn, more to discover, and more to inspire us. The story of the Ashkenazi Jews is just one chapter in the vast book of human history, a book that's still being written, with new discoveries waiting to be made. As we close this chapter, let's remember this: the story of the Ashkenazi Jews is not just their story, it's our story. It's a story that connects us to the past, guides us in the present, and gives us hope for the future. It's a story that reminds us of the power of faith, the strength of community, and the unbreakable bonds that tie us to our roots. But this isn't just the end. It's also a beginning. A beginning for you to explore, to question, and to discover. A beginning for you to dive deeper into the mysteries of history, science, and faith. And a beginning for us to continue sharing stories that inspire, educate, and connect. If this story moved you, if it sparked your curiosity, or if it made you see the world in a new way, let us know. Share your thoughts in the comments below. Tell us what part of this journey resonated with you the most. Did the connection to Israel surprise you? Did the biblical revelations leave you in awe? Or did the resilience of the Ashkenazi Jews inspire you? And while you're here, don't forget to like this video and share it with someone who loves history, science, or faith. Let's spread the knowledge and inspire others to explore the incredible stories that shape our world. Finally, if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and join our community. By subscribing, you'll never miss a video, and you'll be the first to know when we uncover more fascinating stories like this one. Together, we can explore the mysteries of the past, understand the present, and imagine a brighter future.